Welcome to Tom Strong Reviews. Here we have Q-Scout, one of a range of programmable robot kits from Robobloq. There's a magnetic flap hinge on the front. We just open this up. Opening it up, I've got some leaflets that we'll come to later and put them aside. And immediately you see that this kit is in multi-layers, and you've got sensing equipment, that with ultrasonics, and you've got here in this kit the line sensing equipment, and in the middle here the main brains, the computer part, the controller part of the Q-Scout. It's a multi-layered box. I'm going to just pull out, lift out the top layer. Now, depending on how big the kit is, and this is the Q-Scout, this is actually the smallest kit from Robobloq, you'll get multi-component parts. We've got 3 layers. We've done the top layer, there's a middle layer, which you're about to see now, and there's a 3rd layer at the very bottom. Let's keep going. Now, this is all metal. This is really fantastic. It's a very sturdy kit, and lots of kind of echoes of Meccano from my own childhood. That really gives me a kind of fantastic modularity and adjustability section, and the fact that even though it's reasonably simple construction, we'll go through the build in this video of course, you've got somebody building something. And in the very bottom we've got ourselves the remaining parts of the kit, which, surprise surprise, include all the nuts, bolts and screws, as well as a screwdriver. So you actually get a screwdriver and spanner, so you absolutely get everything you need to build this set. This is an iPad, so this is the Apple App Store, but the straight away Robobloq comes under education. Currently it's got a green box with a very smiley face, reminiscent of the Robobloq smiling face that you see on this front metal bumper stroke faceplate, which we're going to be assembling later. Obviously I've downloaded it. You want to open this. You want to allow accessories. Now, straight away on the front page screen, you select which device you've got. So as you can see, I've got the Q-Scout. One last point here though is my application. This is where you'd be doing the programming, which we'll come to later. This is one part that I'm particularly interested in. So let's go into Q-Scout. And of course the first thing I want to do is to do the build. It's a very good set of instructions, and it's very neatly laid out. It tells you what parts you're going to need, all the main parts, all the screws, fixings and sensors in this one, how they fit, so it even shows you which holes they go through and what it should look like at the end. And it's a very easy swipe through. As you can see, you get bit by bit by bit, and what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to do the build. Now I'm going to of course do that fast, but the build parts that are interesting I'm going to comment on, so it's going to be not just a fast speed build, that if you watch it you'll hear me comment on a few parts that are interesting. Okay, build complete. Let's turn on our Q-Scout. There's a switch on the back. It lights up. You can actually see lights on all the circuit boards as well, and you get a nice healthy tone beep as you heard there. Now let's connect with Bluetooth. Now you won't see it in the devices, you need to see it through your app. So again, let's select the Q-Scout. Bluetooth at the moment is got a cross through it, so we're going to press it to connect. Connecting, please wait. And it's already found it. And as you can see, the blue flashing light on the Q-Scout, just central front part here, stopped flashing. And it's now already under your control. I'm not going to drive it just yet, I'll show that in a minute because I've got it on a turntable. But I'm going to just quickly show you some alert lights you can put on. So there's a red light, so it's kind of a bit like a hooter. Here's a little sounder hooter. So you can make it kind of flash. And of course, turn the LED lights on in the front of its sonic sensors. Now, by default, the app starts in the user drive mode. So you can just control it and drive it around, and that's a great way to start. You can also make it make some sounds, so you've got some inbuilt sounds. I'm going to just quickly play one called Two Tigers. But as you can see, sounds like Frere Jacques to me. But you can of course play your own tune. So there's obviously a speaker inside that you can use. The obstacle avoidance and line training we'll come to again later. Let's start with remote control and just have a little quick look at the Q-Scout driving around. It's highly controllable, spins in a very small circle, very responsive. I've got it on a tablecloth and it's dragging its rear wheel absolutely fine and not causing any problems. Of course, on a hard surface this will be even better. The wheels are slightly spongy rubber. The diameter it's got there, that's going to have no problems at all going up and down rugs, which I've got in my house. We'll see him driving around the place and see how fast this little guy can go. I think very controllable, nice, responsive, and the app starting with self-drive is perfect, because at the end of the day you want an instant reward. Imagine day one you've just opened this up and you've built it and you want to quickly test it, and this is by far the best way of doing it, and you've got an immediate play just with a self-built little robotic car. Okay, this is just me driving Q-Scout around. Obviously I can do curves and spins and reverses, and of course whilst driving you can turn lights on and off, and I like the green lights on. Sound hooters to get people out of your way, and sneakily hide behind things and jump out at them, and other such fun. So at the very least it's a very good and capable remote control, well I should say Bluetooth controlled robotic driving device that you've had the satisfaction of building yourself, and that in itself I think is a big plus on a lot of things that are just open box, put batteries in and go. I've made a rather crude hexagonal out of the tape supplied. I'm then going to go into the line tracing app, and as you can see it just shows an oval with your Q-Scout going around the track. Now it's really just an indication, it's nothing to do with what you've drawn, and actually all you need is this on-off button. When you turn it on, it's always advisable to have your Q-Scout with the front sensors covering tape to give it a fair chance. And as you can see, it's following the tape quite well. The two line sensors are actually down here. They're actually two individual sensors. And of course, if I advance this onto the black tape supplied, they go off 1, 2. And that's because it's not reflecting the same level of light that it's detecting or looking for. And again, you can wiggle it left and right and have just one sensor on. So it's therefore able to, when it's driving along, detect right, off, and it can adjust its direction to keep both off, and again if the left one is on it can say I've got to turn this way, and therefore you've got the line tracking ability. So it's quite an important width of tape, because the distance is determined by the gap between these two sensors here and here, and that's the important part of the tape. So if you wanted to use black felt tip marker on paper or card, you absolutely can do, but expect to have to do, you know, a good centimetre width gap to make those sensors be tricked into thinking there's nothing underneath them, and for the LEDs to come off, and then you can absolutely control and program Q-Scout to drive and spiral to your heart's content. Okay, I'm just going to turn on the obstacle avoidance, and as you can see Robobloq is now off on his own control. I've got cushions and various things around the room, but if you watch the blinking blue light behind the circuit board with the infrared sensors, that blinking is basically it's saying no obstacle, no obstacle, no obstacle, and when it gets a solid blue light it then triggers, detects and reverses at a slight random angle. So as you can see it's not exactly solving mazes here, but it is able to reverse and alter course. So as you can see, green means reverse, blue forwards, and red means it's turning. There is a tank track version of the Robobloq equipment, and probably on my carpet and hardwood floor the tank track would have been better than the three-wheel Q-Scout. But as you can see, it's generally coping very well, and it actually got itself out of that all on its own. Again, most of the time I am just leaving the Q-Scout to do its own thing, and as you can see there again, it got up from the hardwood floor onto the carpet all on its own. Loads of compatibility with other items in your playbox, so you can obviously be bolting other things. There's plenty of spare holes and areas to clamp things to, whether it be just literally pinch grip pegs or Meccano style nuts and bolts. The top here, there's actually 2x4 peg points that are Lego compatible, so I can pop, because of course he's green, I can pop my Boba Fett figure on top, and of course I've now got myself a new snazzy drive in a Mad Max utopian world with my Q-Scout robot. The most powerful feature, however, is that you can program the Q-Scout and all the Robobloq robotic computers. All of these options are from side pop-up menus, so the start program begins, or there's a button on the back of the Q-Scout you can press to start. Motion, you can select motors, they're all drop down configurable. You can change and play with the lights, and each light, of course, you can do colour, sounds, including MP3 player ports, controls, repeat options, whether you're repeating on a condition, a variable, and if else wait until, really good structured logic. Sensing, you can use various sensors on the device. Obviously I've only got the ultrasonic sensors and the line sensors, so I can only read light, and I can only do the ultrasonic, so I can't do sound. I can't hear because I haven't got that sensor, but of course you can expand and buy the sensor for these, which is what's fantastic. And here's all your variable and comparison operands and expressions, and of course your variable definition. Of course you define your variable, so if I were to select a variable, I'd be asked, do I want A, B, C, D, so I could use a variable C for a count, for example, so you can even get to use the type of things you wish to have, and you can just throw those bits of code that you don't want out the way. So let's play the program, and of course you can always stop if there's an issue, so the play button goes to pause, and as you can see it's going to start by turning the double lights to green. It's got a repeat structure for 4 times forward motor at 51 seconds, stop moving, play note, wait 1 second, onboard motor M1 for clockwise at speed 55 for 2 seconds, and that was important to get a near right angle. Then stop moving, play a note, and change the lights to blue so you know it's finished. So I'm just going to start playing this, and let's focus on the Q-Scout. As you can see, it's doing a beep on each turn. I've not quite got 90-degree turns, as you can see. And one last turn, and the final. Exactly, and the lights have changed colour, which is exactly as I've programmed it. There are also plenty of supplied programs that you can recommand or reprogram. So if I just select the dancing app, I'm going to make it very, very simple. I'm going to remove the ultrasonic port tester. Remove that from the condition, because the condition is a value, needs a value, less than 30. I'm going to just do something very simple here. Put a 1 in, and I can now make that true. So if 1 less than 30, I can see it's going to set double light panels to red, run backwards at speed 60, wait 0.6 seconds. So I can see it's going to do all kinds of various things, and it's going to make some flashing noises. Let's see what it does. It's dancing. Now the ultrasonic test, of course, was to check that there was plenty of room for it to do these moves, but I had a clear space and didn't need that. So very, very simple, 1 line change, and I've got my Q-Scout dancing like a good one. I'm going to just pause that, and let's have a look at others. So you get plenty of examples of code, and that's all I used to start to learn myself, as well as the online PDF document from Robobloq themselves. It's really absolutely enough to get anyone inquisitive to start programming and controlling your Q-Scout. full STEM support program, educational training stuff, and that means you've also got lots of STEM themed education type learning exercises to continue to carry out and learn from. As followers of my channel will know, I love all things robotic, and I was particularly interested to see how the build part led into fun and then learning. But I've been particularly pleased with the way that this quickly and easily leads you from instant fun turn on, I've got myself a remote control Bluetooth robot that can drive around the floor, to something that's then got programmable learning aspects. And it gets you there easily. It lets you understand the sensors, the line following as well as the sonic sensors very well by the 2 included games, and then your heart's content with the programming. I thoroughly recommend this because it is a toy that's well made, you construct yourself, and you can out of the box within a few hours of assembly have yourself a Bluetooth controlled steerable robotic little toy. And straight away the apps included have you thinking about the ultrasonic sensor that you've just installed and plugged in, and it makes you start thinking about how the black line sensors are working and what you can do with that. And then you can see some example programs, and then you can start modifying them, and then you can start writing your own, and you'll have flashing lights, beeping, song playing, Q Scouts wandering around your house, and your kid learning how to program without even having to ask them or encourage them, because they're going to want to show you what they can get their Q Scout to do. And you're going to know that they've done that because they've learned or adapted, and there's nothing wrong with plagiarizing other people's programs and codes, have adapted something and understood a structured programming language, and that is fantastic. So any toy that's got a programmable element that's so easily and smoothly implemented like this deserves a round of applause. So I think Robobloq have done a really great thing here. The play learning aspects of this, fantastic. Gets my big thumbs up. Well done, Robobloq. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to like, subscribe and comment, and let me know your thoughts on the Q Scout and the Robobloq play environment. Okay, let's get on with the build. As you can see, I've laid out everything on my table ready to do the assembly. Okay, let's start. Each time's going to be the same. I'm going to click the pieces. I need 2 of the M409s. Well, interestingly, these screws are actually threading in and locking into the metal plate, which is quite interesting. So they've designed the thread and cut point of these holes very, very precisely, and that you're not going to need a nut on the back of many of the screws. I can see there are some nuts in the bag, so that's not the case on all of them, but a lot of them are absolutely fine. So only hand tight, don't over tighten these because you just don't need to. This section's certainly a little bit fiddly, so once you've got things lined up, I really suggest you just put one screw in loosely, because it'll make it all a lot easier to then swing and align gently when things aren't yet tightened up. He's already beginning to take shape. The shorter of the 2 cables. With the battery box, obviously the cable is to be on the back, and you can just press and remove the actual battery compartment. We don't need that till later, so you can just fix this on, and it makes a lot more sense because it confirms the orientation of both the up and down as well as the front and back, so that the battery unit can come cleanly in and out whilst still installed. The bottom of the control unit has actually got some plastic. It's easier if you peel this off because it makes it a little bit easier to get the screws straight through the hole, through the battery compartment and into the main body of the Q-Scout. So they just slide through now. I'm going to slide a few through just because it'll help with alignment. And now I can fix it to the main body of the Q-Scout. That was a nice solid click, and we've now connected, let's call them the eyes of the Q-Scout for now, the ultrasonic eyes, into port number 3. So there's actually a 3 and a 4 and a USB slightly etched and embossed on the actual brains computer part of the Q-Scout upper. You can see it if you're working very closely, but it's the first socket, as you can see by the indication on page 6. The motors have a small, almost invisible elastic band, because it does stretch, clear elastic band holding the wire cable close to the motor. That will need removing. I'm leaving the clear rubber protector that's covering the end of the motor. There's no instructions to remove it, and I don't see there's any need at this moment. If anything, it keeps the wires quite tidy. There's actually a nice lug that part of the blue motor casing slides into, so you get a very positive alignment. 2 lugs there before you start tightening up the screws with nuts. I'm just hand tightening the nuts at the moment. It's always easier to get them on. You can feel the thread is correctly aligned. Obviously, if you've got too much resistance at this stage, then you've probably not got the nut aligned correctly, and you should unscrew it and feeling the start of the thread on both the nut and the bolt, redo it so that you've got a nice simple low to no resistance nut and thread threading before you then tighten. And it also means you haven't got many turns to do with the spanner. There's obviously 2 sizes. Let's tighten up the easier access one first. Let's just do this now. Sliding this onto the one at the rear, which is the hardest to get hold of. I know that's in place. I'm just changing my fingers, and then I can tighten the screw, knowing that I've got resistance on the spanner so it can't turn. Whichever you find easier. It's totally possible with one set of hands. Cable should come out the rear, and let's do it again on the other side. Whilst people are used to Lego, less and less people are used to doing screws and nuts, etc. And it's a good skill to learn. So this could be the first toy with Meccano-like aspects to it, and it is an all metal construction. I say all metal. The actual computer's housed in a plastic block, and the battery compartment's plastic, but it's a metal robot at the end of the day. It's got some sturdy strength aspects to it, and we've now got the motors both installed. Cables neatly to the rear. Turning the unit back over, you can see where we're going. Motor 1, motor 2. Now it's not so much that they're numbered, it really does mean left, right. You can't get these wrong because the connector's shaped. and there's a ridge shape inside the actual socket. Same on both of them. My wheel looks slightly different to the one pictured. They've got that much more like a ball bearing in a plastic cup. What I've actually got is two angled cones, let's say, put together. So imagine two plant pots sealed in the middle, and I guess that allows still an amount of slip and grip. There's actually two ridge lines in there as well, which might be very useful for gripping. Again, you mustn't over tighten this one. You're biting into plastic, so you will feel some resistance all the way. But the second that resistance changes, you want to ease off and stop. So you can see there's a wheel alignment. There's no way you can put the wheel on any way other than the correct way. This is being very well conceived as a kit. There's some fiddly parts to it, but nothing too challenging, while still having aspects where you're having to think and look at the diagram. We're pretty much there. Guess what's not yet plugged in? Underneath we have the line sensors. So this is where we're going to go. Just making sure we connect to the forward one, which is actually number 2 on the front. And of course, turning the unit over, let's decide how best to have the wire, but we've got to connect into here. Is there enough room to go up and over here? There is, so I'm going to do this, but you can thread and arrange your own cable management. That's nicely clicked in, that's good. I'm going to actually hook these through here as well. Decided, I think this common body unit has got a few nice little neat places, and you can always wrap these things in place if you feel the need. But I'm just going to organise my cables a little bit neater, because now I know that these have got to get out of the way for the battery compartment. It's quite nice to have them all the time out the way, as it were. That's quite nice. I'm going to just reorganise this whilst I'm doing cable management. I'm happy with that. Lovely. Perfect. And the final stage. Congratulations, you've completed your building. I did wonder what else there was left. Plenty of leftover screws. Got the tools for keeps. So if, like me, you've now got yourself built with just a few screws left over, then you and I are ready to go on to the next stage of the Q-Scout adventure. Okay, build complete. This has been sent to me by Robobloq to review and give my feedback and honest views on Q-Scout. And as you can see, I've been having some great fun doing this. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to like, subscribe and comment.